Dear brothers, good morning, fellas. Hopefully, you guys had an incredible Father's Day weekend and were able to celebrate all of your loved ones and the fathers in your life. I know for me, um, you guys all know that my old man went to meet his creator, 10 years? 10 years ago now. So, Father's Day is an interesting day for me where it's reflecting on how blessed I was to have had my dad for as long as I did, but also for the other men in my life that stepped up and took that role on. I think of my godfather, I think of my mentor George, who I've mentioned on here before. But even my friends in my life that are fathers, I think of my buddy Van, who's got, two kids now, even all of my other close buddies that I went to grad school with. A close friend of mine just had a little one, I think a month ago now. And so I'm surrounded by men who are fathers and who have shown me what that looks like on a more peer-to-peer level. I think sometimes we think of fathers as always being someone who is like far above us, who could actually be a father in the sense of like age. But I think that, Father's Day is also a chance for you to reflect on the other men in your life who are fathers and do an incredible job and are people that you can learn from. So, anyways, that's a long-winded way of basically saying that Father's Day is very special to me, and I know to many other people. And unfortunately, I think that that's probably the thing we need to focus most on in the world today, is making fathers far more important than they are. The statistics are pretty clear. When dad's not around, chaos ensues. However, that's going to be the end of my Father's Day spiel this morning, because what I really want to get into is your spouse today. Girlfriend even, fiance even, anyone that you plan on getting to know intimately, but specifically for those of you that are married. One of the things that I was not good at initially with my wife, this was when we were dating, was really knowing and paying attention to her and what she was thinking and what she was struggling with. And sometimes it was a little bit murky. I kind of knew certain parts, but I wasn't great about intimately knowing what she was struggling with. And certainly over the last 4 years, I have picked away at doing better than that. But recently, you guys know that I've been reading The Masculine Mandate, which I couldn't recommend anymore to all of you. But in there, it talks about paying attention and the biblical precedent for that. So it's 1 Peter 3, I believe 7. And in there, it's one of those terms that gets misconstrued a lot, or these ideas that get misconstrued a lot, where it talks about how men should live with their wives in an understanding way. And it's just kind of a broad generality, but the Greek text that's pulled from actually says that husbands should live with their wives according to knowledge. And so I want to explain what that looks like, because it actually kind of hit home with me. So right now, as you're driving, listening, wherever you're picking this up from, think to yourself, do you know the things in your wife's life right now that she is struggling with? Do you know the tough happenings that are going on at work? Do you know if she's struggling with certain aspects of raising y'all's children? Do you know if she is having any difficulty in her life? Do you know her schedule? Do you know what she's up to? Are you interested in what she's doing? So the point of all this being, when you think about according to knowledge, do you have a deep knowledge of your wife, of your spouse, of your fiance, of your significant other? Do you have this deep well of knowing who she is and what she's struggling with? There are far too many men, this included myself, who, if you were to, ask me point blank about something my wife was struggling with, I'd have to sit there and think about it. Be like, I don't know, having breakfast in the morning? That's not the right answer. I think to myself now, when it comes to anything that my wife is struggling with, I can pinpoint those things. I know the difficulties that she faces with her friends. I know the stuff that's going on at work. And I know the things that upset her and the things that, make her tick. But the only way that you know these things is by asking. And most of all, by paying attention. There were so many times, especially the beginning of our relationship, where she would mention something offhandedly about some form of struggle. Might be work, might be with a friend. And I would listen. I wasn't being rude and talking over her, but I wasn't digesting that. I wasn't thinking on that. I wasn't going, that's interesting. She's mentioned that person a couple of times. What a bummer that they struggle with them. That's not what we're supposed to be doing. When that happens, or when your spouse is saying things multiple times or bringing things up, especially if they're not super forward and open and telling you everything in the world, you have to ask, or you have to pay attention. So I think to myself now, when my wife has brought up various things that she's struggled with, and I go, she's mentioned that maybe 2 or 3 times now. I need to dive in and figure out what that's all about. What's going on? What's the struggle here? And by doing that, I have gained a far deeper understanding of what she struggles with. And to a far more important end, it has allowed her to have a distinct trust in me that I am here to listen. I am here to help. I am here to love her. I'm here to encourage her. As opposed to maybe she says those things hoping that you're going to ask her about them or do something about them, and you don't. And so what does she do? She stops telling you those things, and she hides them or harbors them. And that's quite simply just not what we're supposed to do. It's not how women are designed. It's not how conflict gets resolved. That is how bad things happen in the long term. When marriages are built on hiding the things that they struggle with and just putting it in the closet, eventually the monster has to come out, because those things don't just disappear. And you lose trust, you lose respect, you lose intimacy. Fellas, you just can't allow that to occur. So I really, the actionable items, if you will, of this morning's episode is pay attention, first of all. Pay attention to when your wife is talking about specific things. Might be work, might be friends, I don't know. But if you notice her throwing something out offhanded, pay attention. Don't be so caught up in yourself and your own stuff that that's not how marriage works. Guess what? You guys signed up for this. And what that means is you have to pay attention. You can't just be some willy-nilly bachelor that, oh, well, yeah, we're getting married. That's cool. Or we are married. But I've got my own stuff to do. Guess what? You're wrong. You have someone that you are responsible for, someone that you are called to nurture, someone you are called to protect, someone you are called to understand and grow in knowledge and love with. So guess what? You got to pay attention. So that's first and foremost, is you must pay attention. Second of all, you need to get to know her deep concerns and difficulties. Understand them. Ask her about them. Maybe you don't understand why she's struggling with something. Guess what? We're not built the same. We're not the same people. We don't have the same brains. We don't have the same wants. We don't necessarily have the same, proclivities for certain sins. We're just not the same. And so you have to be forward and upfront, empathetic nonetheless, but still you have to ask, get to know what she is dealing with. Don't just skirt around it or be like, I don't really feel like dealing with that. I know we've all been there. I've been there where I'm just like, I'm not really in the mood to handle whatever's going on right now. Tough shit. Our job is to have a deeper understanding of our spouses and identify the issues that they're facing and then help, guide. It still might be a question of you just listening. But when you're listening, you're soaking that information in. You're not listening and thinking about what game is on TV later. No, you're thinking, you are paying attention. You're taking in what she's saying. You're gaining that knowledge of her, right? You are living with her according to knowledge is the best way to think about that. But I'll leave it at that for today. I think you guys get the generic idea, but there's nothing more beneficial in your marriage than paying attention and then getting to know what's going on with your wife. If I were to ask you at any given time, hey, what's your wife struggling with right now? And you're like, she doesn't struggle with anything. It's pretty unlikely. Everybody has something going on. That's the nature of the world, especially if you've got kids and you're working and, unless your wife happens to be a Buddhist monk living with no people. And even then, I still think they probably have some serious things they struggle with. No matter what, understand where your wife is coming from. What is she's dealing with? And that may seem simple, but way too many men are not deeply enough involved in what's happening in their wives' lives because they're usually too caught up in their own damn life. And guess what? It's not how marriage works. So I didn't just berate you too bad. More berated myself. That message is just as much for me as it is for all of you listening. But nonetheless, I love you all. God bless. Be strong. Get after it this week. Stay focused. I journaled this morning about working deeply and how I need to be better about that in my own life. So I would encourage all of you, work deeply this week. When you're working, that's all you're doing. You're focused. We've already talked at length on this show about how we're called to work. And so if you're going to work effectively, work deeply, be focused on it. Don't be distracted. I get way too easily distracted. That's just a form of procrastination, and I'm not living up to my duty. So if my duty is to work, guess what? If I'm being distracted from it, I'm screwing up. All right, I'm done with the berating today. God bless, fellas. Have a great Monday. We'll see y'all.